So I've been on a killing spree with theories in relation to Fluttershy. Granted, I've only done like one and it was only half right, and not because of any of the reasons I said, but damn it, a win's a win. And so I figured I'd follow my normal creepypasta trend and actually expose your so-called lovable horse who was voted best pony twice for some reason as the ruthless, bloodthirsty killer she is. What's that? That's hard to believe, you say. Well, ye of little faith, why don't you sit right there and allow me to go ahead and explain to you why Fluttershy, the perceived weakling of the group, is slowly killing everyone she comes in contact with. You see, it all started a while back, all the way back in December 28 of 2013. A whole 5 years ago at this point, the episode Bats aired, in which Applejack's orchard at Sweet Apple Acres was overran by vampiric fruit bats. They would suck the apples dry from the trees and spit out the seeds, replanting them for better crops next time. However, this isn't the only effect they have. Apparently, according to Twilight, when trying to remove the desire to eat the fruits from the fruit bats, she somehow transferred it to Fluttershy. This seems pretty standard, and it was. No one really questioned anything here. But if we really stop and think about it, none of that makes any sense. Okay, yeah, it makes sense to want to get rid of the bats, but first of all, changing the bats' entire diet could have just caused another huge catastrophe. Did they already try that with the parasprites? And it only made the problem worse. So why she thought this was a good idea to begin with is beyond me. But even beyond that, this just doesn't make any sense. How does one transfer the desires to eat fruit to a horse who already routinely enjoys apples at that? And that somehow changes the physiology of that person. That doesn't really add up here. Simply having the desire to want to be something or to do something doesn't mean your body will automatically make that come true. For instance, you can have a strong desire to be a different sex, but that doesn't mean your body will just naturally on its own convert itself to being said sex. If you want to sprint faster than Usain Bolt, your body will not simply change on its own. And even then, Twilight's spell was to remove the desire from the bats, not transfer it, which would have probably entailed a completely different act to be done. It also doesn't make sense on the fact that having the desire once again changes Fluttershy, but doesn't change the fruit bats to looking like normal fruit bats. So it only changed Fluttershy. There's just too much here that doesn't add up for this to just be what really happens. But I think I do know what did happen on that day. During Fluttershy's first encounter with the vampire fruit bats, she spit on by them multiple times, exposing her to any infections they might have. This was her first meeting with them ever. She states a few times that she's never met with them outside of this encounter, which means that anything that they carried she couldn't have ever been exposed to. And from what we've seen, the vampire fruit bats seem to only stick around Sweet Apple Acres, meaning that very few other people have ever been exposed to them as well. And since vampirism often is depicted like rabies, we can assume whatever element has the potential to infect a pony is found mainly in the saliva. And while it's normally transferred through a bite, it can also enter through a wound or mucous membrane, such as the eyes, nose, or mouth, all places Fluttershy was hit multiple times. Whenever she's giving the stare, it's been treated as some sort of telepathic event, maybe increasing the empathy shared between two people, perhaps freezing them in place as they feel the shame and regret that Fluttershy thinks that they should feel. Or maybe they're just confused over the new emotions. Perhaps his mental link was also a factor in expediting or sparking the process as well. It seems a little far-fetched to think that all the times that Applejack has tried to shoo away the fruit bats that she's never been spit on herself, but perhaps it's simply that it requires some sort of catalyst, a spark to light the match. And that this mental link between the fruit bats and Fluttershy was that spark. This would explain why she changes, but no one else who's ever been spit on, to our knowledge, has. But even then, she was cured, right? Well, obviously not. The writers gave us a subtle wink and nod at the end of the episode, showing us that no, she has yet to actually been cured. All they did was revert her form, her physical form, back to being a typical pony. Meaning her saliva, blood, and any other bodily fluid still carries around a horrible disease that all it needs is the right trigger to set off one of the largest infections we've ever seen in the show. Fluttershy works with numerous wild animals that may bite or claw or just even spit on different ponies who are walking by. She constantly works with Pinkie Pie, who handles a lot of food, and as we've seen, hasn't exactly got the best safety standard when it comes to ingredients. All of this is building up in the populace. Who knows how many people have been infected? If she's infected Celestia, that could now be international. It could be infecting the Yaks, the Griffins. Not to mention she herself does go on multiple trips outside of Equestria as well. Fluttershy seems to be our patient zero, and what it looks like is she's set a bomb, and the only thing keeping Equestria safe is the lack of the spark. But who knows if Fluttershy is the only one that could set it off? What if some sort of other event triggers the same kind of phenomenon? If all it takes is this one spark, Equestria is essentially a powder keg, just waiting for that one moment when all hell breaks loose. So that, dear watchers, is why Fluttershy is probably the most deadly of all the ponies. And this is why, if she's your waifu, why she is obviously the worst horse. But hey, that's just a theory. A pony theory. And I thank you guys for watching. My name's been Faith, or Moliminous, and I hope you guys enjoyed and liked this video. I'd like to also take a moment here to shout out our patrons, which, if you want to be one of those lucky, incredible, sexy beasts who support us, follow the links down in the description or on the end card. Woo! Hey. I do it for love. Yeah. I do it for the love.